Just slide into those DMs.
Yeah, for real. I even broke
Yeah,
out
for
this
real.
new shirt for today's pot. Look at that. Huh?
He also has a
Look at that
profile
thing.
sponsored on farmersonly.com.
Welcome to the Top Contractor Podcast, the show that highlights the remarkable individuals who are shaping the construction industry and pushing its boundaries with engaging interviews, expert discussions, and real-world stories of success and challenges. I'm Bill Reiman, your broker builder, and I am here with my co-host,
Nate Swink. Sorry, I did a pause there for
You still haven't come up with a nickname. We're still fun. You know, you can go Nasty Nate, Nate the Great. There's a million of them, man. I was trying to come up with some more stuff. But yeah, we'll figure it out one. Some with welding too. You got to get that involved. But this is a topic that I guess we'll continue to go on with in the future here on episode 4. He still has no nickname. But
unraveling. Okay.
Nate, before we get started, let's talk about the show. So what are we doing on the Top Contractor Podcast?
All right, so the Top Contractor Podcast highlights 3 different styles of episodes. One is a deep dive into a specific topic that you, the audience, picks. Number 2 is a high-level interview with an industry expert. And today we have a dear friend of both mine and Bill's. Can I say it or no? I guess they can see him, right?
You kind of gave it a
good.
Yeah.
Good.
For real, I appreciate the opportunity to be on here and chop it up with you guys. You know, I was looking through some of the conditions that have to be met to be on the show, and all pros and no bozos.
Yeah, Davey.
That is it. Well, let's get started with you. Obviously, you know, we know who you are, but the listeners out there don't know who you are. So who is Daniel Good? Who is DG, D Good? Who are you? Let's hear about him.
Serial entrepreneur. So I live just a little south and east of Washington, D.C. in southern Maryland. We operate our civil construction company out of the Washington metropolitan area, primarily focused on civil construction. So you think about what you would do on a larger scale: new shopping centers, new county roads, new state highways, hotels, commercial buildings, etc. The groundworks of those, so utilities, site work, asphalt, concrete, stormwater, etc. And so that's the business that I work in daily. I have some other things that I'm involved in. We have a dumpster company that actually operates out of the same physical footprint, the same geographic area. And then we have just here this year, we've brought a good friend of mine to the area, and we've opened up a moving franchise. A real good friend of mine out of Ohio. Really successful dude, family man. Him and I hit it off really well. Once I was able to sniff out and look at his model, and then I started sniffing out locally, I was like, wow, there's moving companies here locally, but nothing like what he does existed. So we were able to structure a deal where he brought the moving company here. So then that's another deal that I'm part of now, another organization that we started one location in Fredericksburg, Virginia in February. And since then, we've already opened up 2 other locations in, they call them the Fairfax, Virginia territories, but it's part of Fairfax County out towards Loudoun County, Virginia. So we're really excited about that. I'm involved in some land development stuff, partners in that, not really heading that up. I learned the hard way that you can only physically work in so many different businesses at the same time. So I've found more success here in the last few years is jumping in some of these deals in a silent position than what I did before in a day-to-day position, thinking that I could run all these things and I could do all this stuff simultaneously. A silent position, or an investor, or just a silent partner, on some of these things, that's what it's kind of evolved to because it works better. You can only work in so many places at the same time. So I do have one little 8-year-old boy. He'll be 9 in September, going in the fourth grade. So he's the apple of my eye. So I don't think, Bill, you haven't had a chance to meet him. Nate has. Him and Nate.
Yeah, me and Blake chop it up.
Yeah, him and Nate are homeboys. They be texting.
Nah, I still got to meet him, man. Yeah, one of these next events. Bring him down to the next one in Naples.
Yeah, it's actually we've talked about that, and I think it wouldn't be. I really though when we were together this summer, I really wanted to bring him to that one, but you know, although our organization isn't necessarily partying it up, Vegas just isn't necessarily the place for children.
That's true.
So
Very true.
we left him home on that one, but like he's involved, man. It's like he got a taste of the Kool-Aid back in the spring, and like he's very interested in what we're doing. He watches this podcast. He watches what he calls Mr. Brian. He watches Mr. Brian on YouTube. So I was actually like getting in his ass quite often about how much YouTube he was watching. But I guess I got to back off of him some now that he's watching you fellas. And he's watching.
Watching good
Better.
stuff.
Yeah.
He's getting our rankings up.
Yeah.
Have him watch the same video like 50 times a day.
Yeah, and hit that like button and subscribe.
Yeah. So he's a cool little dude. So I'm really proud of him. He's at the age now where he asks tons of questions. He's really interested in what we're doing and what we're doing in the businesses and what I'm doing with you gentlemen. So um, our relationship, we've always been close, but it's really evolving now, and it's pretty exciting, Bill.
That's awesome, man. Me and
I
Bill
mean,
will experience that soon.
yeah, we got it coming up, Nate. It's crunch time here, so life's about to change for sure.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I mean, don't rush any of it. Like, really, don't rush any of it because it goes fast enough as it is. But when you can get past the like diaper changing stage and you can actually have a real conversation with a child, like a real conversation, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I want to go into what you were talking about a little bit about like all your businesses. You got so much going on, man. Like and different things too, like with the dumpster company now, moving company, and now, and then obviously with your original business too, with Bay County Contractors. So how are you managing all these things? Like, how are you dealing with all this too? Like, get into that a little bit.
Well, Bill, I'll tell you that it's not as glamorous as what it sounds, man. What you're talking about is what you know of. What you're talking about is what you read on my LinkedIn profile. It's like what I'm proud of, but there's been some deep, dark mistakes because, one of the things that I didn't realize is that you cannot work in several, like, you can't devote yourself to several different businesses. It sounds good when you can go out to dinner with your friends or you can go in the bar and chop it up and you can tell your people that you own all these things and you do all it sounds good, but that's about the end of it because you cannot physically work and do a good job and pay attention to all the pieces that we know you have to pay attention to, whether it's leadership or HR or finances or accounting or legal or whatever.
Mm.
You can't pay attention to all those pieces when you're physically working in the business. You can look at it from the visionary perspective if you have a team in place, but to think that you're going to do it yourself because you're a goat, yeah, nobody's that good. So
So is that an area where you dropped the ball? Like you just didn't have it structured the right way, or like let's give the audience like a nugget, like that way they don't,
I'm going to
a golden nugget.
I don't
Get
I
that
don't
nugget.
want to spoil it. So because I really want you boys to go there and listen to it, but a podcast just dropped yesterday, and it's part one of my story. So I don't want
Mm-hmm.
too deep into my story here, but I can tell you that
No, we want you to go deep in your story. This podcast is just as important. Don't cut us. Don't shortchange us on our end. Give us the juice.
I didn't have a leader. I didn't have a leader, and I could sit here and tell you, well, it's because, my father died when I was 26. I mean, that had something to do with it, but I didn't have a leader, like a real leader, because like my story goes, the more that I wanted, the more that I got. The more that I showed everybody I could do, the more I got. So who was leading me? Like, who was leading me? Who was telling me, go faster, more? Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a good avenue. Who would? Nobody. I mean, I hate to admit it, but I was kind of winging it. Winging it, not from a perspective like I knew the nuts and the bolts of civil construction. Shit runs downhill and like dirt dries when the sun hits it. I mean, like I knew the nuts and bolts, but who was telling me, like, who was leading me? I never had a leader. I can't say ever, because I mean, when I was a child, my father was a leader, but at an early age, and now I'm going to spoil it, but at an early age, he, one winter we were pushing snow and he slipped and fell on the ice, hit his head, bleeding out of the ears, the whole 9 yards. He was laid up for months. I went from being a manager of a piece to being a manager of the whole thing, like that. And it went well. It went well. But did it go well because I was like, I really knew what I was doing? Or did it go well because we were in a good economy and any bozo could like make it work? You could, if you did halfway right, you could make it work. And I'm going to tell you that some of it was luck, some of it was the right job, some of it was customers that would pay us. When he got out of that, like being laid up for months, like he came out and the tables were turned. Like he was chasing me around, like, son, what do you need me to do today? Because I had it under control. So I might have had the work under control when the dump trucks were hauling and everything was busy and the balance sheet looked good and the P&L looked good. But nobody was leading me. And I didn't know that I needed a leader because at 24 or 25, you think you are the man. I've got it. I've got it under control. I don't need anybody to tell me what to do because I've got it. See, this balance sheet says so. And I didn't have a leader. So then, you start having some success. Well, we're going to start another business. We're going to buy a townhouse. We're going to have uh, a half a dozen townhouses. We're going to have these rental properties. You're going to do that. Nobody was telling me no because I was the man. Nobody tells the man no. I mean, it wasn't even like somebody was trying to tell me no and I didn't listen. Nobody told me no. I was at the top. I mean, like literally younger than Nate. I was at the top. I was given the opportunity to be at the top to, I'll use the term lead people. It wasn't really leading people, it was running people. Back then, I would say I was running men. I was running men. I wasn't leading men. Until the last few years, I really didn't even know what leading people was about. But like nobody would stop me. And that sounds arrogant, like I can't be stopped. It's not like that. It's the fact that like there was nobody there to stop me. The balance sheet looked good. The loans were getting approved. We were buying the houses and buying the equipment, and just it was evolving. And 2000, Nate's probably a little too young to realize to remember this.
Hey, it made it through COVID though, huh?
But man, 2005, 2006, 2007, those years were rolling, and they would approve anything. They would just about approve anything for anybody. And I was buying equipment, buying houses, buying trucks, and doing this and doing that, and there was no limitations, and there was nobody to stop me. So what happened is when 2008 came around, and the bottom basically fell out of everything. There was no loans. The next job that you were low bidder on, all of a sudden is not happening. You're stuck around with all these payment books and trying to figure out how to pay the bills. And I had to learn the hard way, like literally. And that's just a piece of the story about learning the hard way, because I dove in all these things head first because I never had a leader, or I never had a leader from the point where it mattered, where I had needed a leader.
So, with, like, when you say learn, are you grateful for those times? Are you, when learning the hard way? Let's go back in your story here. 2008, obviously, we know what happened. Things changed pretty drastically. Your business went a polar opposite direction. Are you grateful for that? I mean, it's a learning experience. You thought you were king of the world, then you got knocked down, kicked in the balls, and now you're at where you're at. And not getting into where you're at now, let's go back there too. Was that experience something you needed?
Bill, I'm going to tell you that I had a great foundation. As a child, I had a great foundation. My father was super hard on me, but him being hard on me and making me start at the bottom, and him not feeding me with the silver spoon, that really created what we talk about today. A good foundation,
Mm-hmm.
great foundation for a good person. And I'm not saying that in arrogance. I can say in confidence, I know where my heart is. And I feel like he set a great foundation for just a really good person. But the next foundation for that business person, like a real business person, I knew the trades. I knew the trade. I could pull the levers. I could do all that stuff. But like being in business and what we refer to today as leading people, I don't even know if those conversations were ever really even discussed. You were winning when you had money in the bank. You were winning when you could afford to buy stuff. You were winning by your employee count. That's how you win. That's how you know you won. There's 100 people around here, and there's
despite whatever the culture is, right?
yeah. Just
Yeah.
culture. What was that? I'm gonna tell you that the first 15 years of my professional career, I don't even know that I ever heard the word. What was that? I came from a place where I heard my father numerous times, tell somebody, if you don't tighten up, I've got a stack of applications the same place yours came from. How would that go over today? So when I got out there, that was the same way I acted. I had this gentleman, he was an inspector for a water and sewer utility, a water and sewer company that we did a lot of work for. And I remember like coming right out of the gate acting just like my old man. And he was a really calm, older gentleman. He said, Daniel, I'm going to tell you something. And he was serious. And I could tell like I needed to be paying attention. He said, I've listened to that shit from your father, he said, for the last 18 years. He said, because I like him and I think he's a good person. He said, but I'm not listening to that shit from you. He said, you need to make your own way. You need to be your own person, not your father. And I was like, wow, that old man just put me back in my place, because he just told me that, basically I needed to be my own person. That abrasiveness, that I've got a stack of applications, that bull in a china shop method that worked for the old man. That was his method. And that, people, because they liked him, put up with some of that, but they weren't putting up with it from me. And that I needed to find my own way. And that was a slap in the face at a very young age. I heard him. I don't know that I understood all of it. What I heard him saying was, shut up and don't act like your father. But I it's taken years for me to think about that conversation, for it to really, for me to understand what he was saying. But yeah, man, I picked up not only all the good habits my father had, I picked up all the bad ones. So, but yeah, it was, I can't say it was I mean, I guess it was a lack of leadership, but what leadership? Like what? I'm going to tell you that what we know as true leadership today, I mean, I can't tell you it didn't exist, but it didn't exist here. Culture and leadership, and my father wasn't, in him or his partner, they weren't really about the things. When I came in at a young age, I'm thinking, I'm about the things, 2 Bahama trips a year, cars and SUVs and equipment, payment, like that's me. They weren't really about that, but he was about being abrasive. That's for sure.
Hmm.
I can relate with you a lot, obviously working with my dad for as long as I have too, and how my old man was in business, and I can definitely relate. And there's it comes a time. I was actually having this discussion with my dad the other day. He came in town, and we sat down kind of talking about where the business is at and everything. And uh, there comes a time where I think they realize the shift and the change that happened within the company. They see how things are thriving. They see how things are almost better than when they left, I guess is a way to put it too. Uh, I was the same way as you. I mean, at first, I didn't know what leadership was. In our company, it was just my dad was hard headed. Kind of. He was a great businessman. Don't get me wrong, but that generation's different. It's an old school generation. I was talking to Brian Hess about this, and things aren't ran kind of like I'm trying to run the company now, like Nate's trying to run his company, like you're trying to run your company. It was more of a team effort, getting everybody involved and so on. A lot of their way was, I don't want to call it micromanage, but I guess it's a term to use where everybody had to come to them for everything, and they wanted everything to run through them rather than
It's like
giving
an
people.
ego
Yeah,
stroke, and you want control of everything.
I'll tell you,
But
I say it often, but it was like the iron fist mentality. You do as I say.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right there.
Yeah, and I mean, and you think about it, well, how do you get people to listen to you? Well, you turn the volume up. If you
Mm.
really want them to listen to you, you just start yelling at them, right? Man, I learned all the wrong stuff.
yeah, no kidding. Jeez.
So let's keep going with this too, because I like this topic. When did the leadership shift? When did you figure out that you needed to become the leader? How did you become the leader of the business? Like, where did that come into play within the company?
Bill, I'll run through this like this piece real quick. But even 2008 recession, 2000,
Oh, don't go quick on me. I want everything.
I want it all. Um, I'd,
Nate and I want it all.
I'd
Ooh.
plug here. um, 2008, like you're looking around, you're like, oh my gosh, where's the next job coming from? 2009 was a super, super bad year. Like, father had cancer. Like, I made some real bad mistakes in the office and with office personnel. Yeah, like really bad. Like, relationships in the office, it was not good. All that blew up. And then the girl that I dated for like almost 10 years, when all that blew up, she rolled out. So like I'm sitting here with no work. Father's got cancer. Like the girl I'd been with for 10 years, she checks out. No accountant, nobody to pay bills, nobody to make payroll. Like it was bad. I finally got through all that. We got into August of 2009. My father passed away. I took a week dealing with that. And then I went back to work. But I still didn't realize that it wasn't about the stuff. Because again, I've told you that's how you know you're winning. When the balance sheet and the P&L looks good, and you've got a list of 50 pieces of yellow stuff that you own, and 65 blue trucks, and 97 people on the employee list, you're winning. You're rocking. You go into the bar, the people tell you, you're rocking, ain't you, boy? I see that stuff everywhere. You're rolling, aren't you? Did you get a new trailer? Did you get a new mechanic truck? Man, the wheels sure are shiny. Like, it makes you feel good. It gives you that dopamine hit. So keep in mind, I just told you, I've lost everything. Girlfriends, accountants, dad, and I'm still thinking like the stuff. I'm gonna win I'm gonna have this stuff. I'm gonna elevate. And we transitioned during the recession. We transitioned into some government work. We opened up an office in Northern Virginia. We're paying the bills. We're making a little bit of money. At this time, I've got no leadership. I don't even have any leadership. I don't have any guidance. I'm out here winging it as a kid in my 20s. I'm out here. Sorry, the phone just rang. It was Mr. Calloway called. So,
He's trying to bomb our podcast. What the heck?
uh, I'm out here in my upper 20s, thinking I know it all, and not really knowing what I don't know. We're working in Quantico, we're working at Bowling Air Force Base, we're building highways and putting in sewer stations, and I still have the mindset that I'm the man. I've made mistakes, but I'm the man because I have the stuff and I have the people, and we're winning. And the balance sheet, I mean, it's not great, but we're paying the bills. And then I still have the same mindset, Bill. Let's open another business. Let's buy another house. Let's open another office. Not realizing, like really, really not realizing that true winning isn't measured by all this stuff. Like true winning is not measured by how many people are on the employee list. And that's what I was measuring my success by, is all these depreciating assets: truck list, heavy equipment list, trailer list, employee list. I'm rocking. But I felt empty. I felt empty. And I rode that roller coaster. And I tell people this all the time. It's funny. It was one of the first things that I told our mentor. I told our mentor that I'm on a $10 million roller coaster. I said, some years it's 9, some years it's 11, a couple years it was around 13. But when you average it all out, it's about $10 million. And I can't get past it. And I've been here for a long time. To the point that one time, and it's been probably 6 years ago, I brought in some management in my company and brought them to the table. And I said, listen, we got to change something, because I think the problem with our growth is actually, it might be me. So let's set up this tripod, an accounting leg, estimating and project management leg, and then a field management leg. And we're going to set up this tripod system. And I want you three to run the company, because I think I'm the problem. We're on this $10 million roller coaster, and I'm the problem. So let's set up the tripod. You three do it. I'm going to take a back seat in the bus, and let's see if I'm the problem. They might beg to differ, because it's hard for people to point the finger at themselves. But what I learned over the next 18 months or so, I wasn't the problem, because I ended up with a bigger mess out of 18 months of being semi-absent than what I had before I started. And, look at it, was it a lack of, I mean, it was probably a lack of everything. But I thought the problem was me. So I got out of the driver's seat, went to the back seat, and sat in the back seat of the bus and let them three run the company. And I'll tell you that I'm still dealing with things today, years and years later, of that they did during that time period that they should have done or they should have done differently. So 18 months of that goes by, and it's no better. It's actually worse than what it was when I handed them the reins. I was like, there's got to be somebody out there that can help me, that can really, really, really help me. And I started hitting the street looking for a business, a construction mentor, somebody that could come in, a different set of eyes. And I got tied up with a few different folks that came in. I hired some of them to be managers in the company. Some of those didn't go so well. Like, I tried everything. I'm talking about everything, guys. From like $200,000 employees. Wow, that was stupid. To like consultants, to accountants, to legal. Somebody help me on why I can't grow this business. Why am I stuck in this $10 million place? And I ended up through social media, found our mentor. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, I've got a couple problems, would love to talk to you. And he responded immediately. Couple days went by, we jumped on a call. I don't know that I realized it at the time. In my head, I was interviewing him, but really we were interviewing each other. And he listened to my concerns and my problems and the way I felt. And he said, if you trust me, he said, we can fix this. And immediately my mind goes to, yeah, I'm going to pay the bills. I'm going to have the stuff again. Like, this is great. We're going to fix it. I'm going to have money in the bank, and I'm going to have this new and that new. And as I went down the road, started traveling that road with him, I realized that I had built, let's just pick on Bay Country for a second, that I'd spent my whole life, I mean, from the time when I was a little boy, building in my mind what was this skyscraper business. Was it a real skyscraper business? Was it $1 billion organization? No, but from where I came from, in the town I came from and from my background, in my mind, it was a skyscraper business that had no foundation. No foundation. Because we start having these conversations about core values, and we start having these conversations about leadership, and we start having these conversations about culture. And I realized that none of that stuff exists. None of it. Not only did it not exist, one of the reasons it didn't exist because I'm in the bar 4 nights a week. Because I've got all these problems, and like, I was single at the time. So, where do you go to figure out your problems? Where do you go not to be single? Like, how do you fix all this stuff? You go to the bar. And that's where I was. Like, I'm trying to realign my business prior to engaging in the bar. And then as we go down this road, and at some point, we start going down this road together. I meet some of you gentlemen, we get mentored. I realized that just about everything that I had in this business, and even some of my other businesses, were wrong. It was all wrong. It was wrong. There was no foundation. There was no leadership. The people that were here, quite honestly, they were running the company. I wasn't running the company. They told me what they were going to do. And if I didn't like it, how I changed it is I turned the volume up. Because when you really don't like it, you just start yelling at them, right? Isn't that how you fix it? If you don't like it, I just tell you, Nate, I tell you, and I turn the volume up. Now, Bill, I tell you what you're going to do. Dude, it was all wrong. And after it had been all wrong, and it didn't matter how well so and so could run the dozer or how well they could lay the sewer pipe, it was all poisonous. Man, it was poisonous. The culture was poisonous. They were telling me what they were going to do. They were telling me when they were going to work. And my solution was either just let them do it because they were going to do it anyway, or yell at them. And I couldn't fix it. So I had to eliminate it.
Tear it down
Where
and
at that
restart.
time, what's that, bud?
I said tear it down and restart at that point, right?
Yeah, man, it was. It was. And I, man, that was humbling. Take everything at that point, 20 years that I'd been part of building. I mean, and everything, paint schemes on trucks, logos, office space, the fact that we were even in Northern Virginia, that was all me. The people that worked here, there wasn't, at that time, I think there might have been 2 or 3 people that were still here that worked for my father. But the rest of it was me. And I had to tear it all down. I had to tear it all down and start over because I couldn't fix it. Because it was so poisoned and it was so bad and it was so about all the wrong things. It was about the stuff. It was about the stuff and the partying and it was about all the wrong stuff, not about the people. So, when I really realized that the problem was true leadership and true caring for people, and when I really started like reaching out to these people with an olive branch and really started plugging into them, some of them were like, who the hell are you? Who are you and what weird shit are you talking about? Like,
Backtrack a little bit. What year did you, obviously you realize that the core values of the company, there's no leadership, there's nothing that was implemented. You start realizing these things, and you're like, I got to tear this down and rebuild. So what year was
that's
that?
been
When
about
did
two
that
and a
all
half years
happen?
ago.
Let's go.
That's been about 2.5 years ago.
Okay. So the company was in business how
Well, I
long
think
before
so.
the
This
restructure
November, I
happened?
think I'm telling you right. This November, we've been in business for 38 years. So, I mean, just 2 years ago. So, I mean, we
Okay.
were still at, yeah, 30. Yeah, I mean, we
36
had been in
years in
business for a
business
long
and
time, but it was with that old
okay.
school iron fist mentality because that's how I was taught.
Mm-hmm. And I just see, and the reason I want to backtrack on that is because I want the audience to be able to hear that. I mean, a 36-year-old business, and you pumped the brakes and said, "We got to redo this. We got to, tear it down and start this thing over too." So I just wanted people to hear that. But just go ahead,
Bill,
continue
and
because
it was
this
hard
is
too, bro, because when you come from a small town where, quite honestly, all people do in the evenings and weekends is talk about the other guy. That's what they do. You come from a small
yeah.
town and you tear a business down the way I tore this one down. The perception to the community is you're going out of business. The perception to everybody, it doesn't matter if it's the community, other contractors, vendors, suppliers, is they're going under. And that was also hard. it's also hard. Like, it went for a while there, guys, where I wouldn't, I wouldn't go to the coffee shop. I wouldn't go to the store. I wouldn't go to Lowe's. I wouldn't shop at Walmart until nighttime when everybody else is home, because if I'm being completely honest, I was embarrassed. I felt like initially when I started tearing this thing apart and getting rid of the stuff and the trucks, I had a whole fleet of dump trucks and I got rid of all of them. I'd be lying to you boys if I told you that, like, that was a horrible feeling. It was just, whether I knew it was the right thing to do or not, man, it was bad. It just felt bad.
Well, that's where you put your identity, though, brother. For like 30 years, your identity was in all that shit, that crap. Now you lost it, and like you didn't know. That's a tough.
Yeah, man. Because there was dozers and loaders and trucks, and like the dump trucks that I went to Mississippi and bought from an auction. And brought them home and painted them, and I'm getting rid of everything, man. And I'm going to tell you, when I first started doing that, super hard, super emotional. I want to go in a hole and crawl in a hole somewhere and just not talk to anybody. But then I started seeing traction from it. I started seeing, wow, the more of this stuff I get rid of, the more liquid cash we have, the more that if ABC Construction doesn't pay us in 25 days, I can actually make the payroll now. And oh yeah, those mini excavators and those trench rollers, and I could go on and on and on. I can just go down to the rental house and rent those. And when I'm done with them, I can send them back. No maintenance, no personal property taxes, no insurance. People don't realize the cost of having, oh man, they want to have this huge fleet. And they use it, like I use that thing like 2 weeks a month, so I got to go buy one.
Stupid.
They forget it. They don't even realize, they don't even know personal property taxes, insurance. And then, oh yeah, you're going to work on the shit. And then when some knucklehead that works for you, does what X, Y, or Z, then you're going to repair it. It's too easy to pick up the phone and say, hey, 123 Van Doren Street, deliver me one of those. And you don't have any of that stuff. So when I started getting rid of everything, it just made everything better. And that's not just the stuff. That's the people too. The people that didn't belong. The people that, again, I went to these people and I started treating them differently. And some of them were receptive to it, I guess. And some of them were like, what the hell is wrong with you? And where'd our old asshole boss go? Some of them you weren't changing. There was two brothers here. There was two brothers that worked here. And man, they were good. They were good. They were real good at what they did. And if I'm telling you boys the truth, I love them boys. They were good. And the Monday after the Super Bowl a couple years ago, one of them didn't show up to work. And during this time period, I just decided, I said, because I was in the heat of the transition then. Super Bowl, I knew why he didn't come to work, because he had too much Super Bowl last night. And I let him go. They had been here a long time. And those boys were good. And I cared about them deeply. And I still care about them today. But allowing the absence after Super Bowl Sunday, it was more of the same. It was more of what I had been allowing. It was more of the same. And I had to change that. And it was hard. because even though, dude, when people are screwing up, doesn't mean you don't care about them. It just means they screw up some of the times. I had a old guy tell me a long time ago when I caught somebody stealing from me. He said, if that guy makes you $100 and he steals 20, you're still up 80. And I'm, yeah, you're right. And I had built my business for a long time around that type of mindset. Well, if you have them 4 days a week, it's better than having them no days a week. And I had to change all that, man. I had to change all that. You had to get rid of the people that was stealing from you. You had to get rid of the people that, you know, worked to their schedule, not to our schedule. So the whole process, whether you're getting rid of the stuff, you're getting rid of the people, you're getting rid of the leadership, I had to tear it's I had to tear the whole thing down. I had to tear the whole thing down and create these standards and expectations and make them clear. And man, that was hard because my default during that time period is still sometimes to turn the volume up. That's my default, man. That's how it was built. Turn the volume up. You don't like how I'm changing this thing? Turn the volume up. That was my default. And it's been, so you're getting rid of the stuff, you're realigning the people, and my default is turn the personal volume up. Whew, that was hard. I had a really, really, really good friend that worked here. Really good friend. And I had elevated him to a manager. He was running one division of the company, and I could trust him with anything. And I cared about him. Like, we spent holidays together. We would drink at the bar. Like, he was a good dude. And during this time period of transition, he ended up not here as well. And that hurt. You know, that was another piece that hurt because I really cared about that boy. But I had to let go of the things and the people. If I couldn't get them to change in my different mindset, or if I couldn't get them aligned in the mindset, in the realigned mindset, in the new vision of the company, if I couldn't get them on board, so like we're told all the time, you have to change the people, or you got to change the people. And there's a few people here still left today, but I mean, this company is really, from the management down, it's completely different than it's ever been before. And that's because I realized that it's not about the stuff. It's definitely not about the employee count. It's about getting the right people here that are receptive to being treated good. And when you treat them good, they give you their best self. And that's all we're looking for. Bill, I'm looking for you to do your best. I want you to do your best. And if you do your best, I'll do my best. And the whole company's, when I started making the people and the vision and everything that we learn about, the priorities, and less focus on the stuff, man, the whole thing changed. Sure.
Sounds like a leader.
Man, we're trying. God bless it.
Sounds like that transition to leadership happened for you, though. I mean, listening to your story and everything, and just what you went through and how you went about just rebuilding the whole thing, after 36 years, and then having to get rid of friends and good people or good employee, that you thought were good employees to structure the business towards your core values. You became the leader.
Yeah.
Am I right?
But I'll tell you, what I really did. Yeah, ultimately, yeah, I evolved into like.
Give yourself some credit. It's good
But
leadership.
I learned what a leader was. I learned what a leader was. The byproduct is, I finally stepped into what I should have been for the last 22 years.
Yep.
But I I mean, you don't know what you don't know. And,
Mm-hmm.
winning and you gentlemen thinking I was the cool cat is because like I told you how many millions I did, how many people we had, and how much shit I owned. That's what made you two think I was successful and the cool cat.
Well, I thought you were a nut when I first met you.
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that plug.
Me
You
too.
couldn't wait to get that in there, could you?
Right? No, this guy was the transition that he's had from where he is now, personally, professionally, is unrecognizable. Where he puts his trust and everything's unrecognizable.
Dude, I remember we were on the bus going to Top Golf. And it was the first time like I had ever been around any of this group. And I remember trying to have a conversation with you. And you were basically like, dude, get the hell out of my face. I mean, that's been a few years ago.
Yep.
But
Well, he was just
What'd you
like
do that for, Nate?
obnoxiously shit-faced drunk. And I don't go to masterminds to, I'm like laser focused, Sometimes I'm like a real serious guy. Hard to believe. But anyway, I was just
Bill,
like, who the
That is
is
hard to
this
believe.
drunk guy? Get out of here. And then now, man, love this guy.
couldn't see your life without me in it.
There
Or
you
my
go.
little boy texting you shit.
Yeah. Oh man.
No, guys, but I really, it sounds like a fairy tale, but man, things are so good right now. I mean, don't get me, dude, this shit's hard. I don't care how good it gets, it's still hard. People not paying you, and
Mm-hmm.
just, I mean, the problems and the things you don't have control over. I mean, this shit's hard, but it's the best version of hard that I'm going to tell you I think I've ever seen. Man, this is great. I if somebody locally were to listen to this, I'm not judging anybody, but I found myself pushing away the guy down the street and bringing closer the guy on the other side of the country because they're more aligned. I know more about you two and what's happening and your wives and just like than I do people that I grew up with because we're more aligned. And quite,
Mm-hmm.
it's just different. Our relationships are so much different. Like they're real. It's different. Like this is different. This organization. I came here trying to fix a freaking disaster. And 2.5 years later, just about everything I own is gone. The majority of the people are gone. And I've gained like an entire family, like literally an entire family of people that I consider my brothers and sisters. And I mean, Mr. Calloway and the conversations that him and I've had about my father checking out at such an early age and how I look up to him. And I just spent a week, Blake and I just spent a week with Brian and his family. And just, man, what's happening here is absolutely amazing. And the fact that we're just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think, Nate, you got a story, dude. You got your own story. You tried to figure this out and change this and change that, and realign. Bill, you got a story where you had to realign your family business. But guys, we're getting these things dialed in. And from here on out, it's going to be hard. I think we all agree to that. But it's the best hard we've ever had. I mean, it's the best hard we've ever been exposed to. Y'all are married. You're going to have, I mean, your wives are pregnant. Like, dude, this is amazing. We get to do this together. We get to see each other. We don't get to see each other enough, but we get to chop it up and we get to grow this organization. And I just, dude, this is great. The whole thing is just amazing. I can't begin to describe to our listeners or to your listeners what this organization has done for my ability to have relationships, or quite honestly, my ability to push away the relationships that I had that weren't aligned with my vision and my goals.
Let's wrap it up on that too, about Top Contractor School and its influence on you.
This TCS organization, and I think you boys would agree, we're literally like, and we can't even throw this out there easily. Like, we're changing people's lives and their abilities to have real, meaningful, deep relationships. And I joined this organization thinking that I was gonna fix all my business problems, and I was gonna learn, like, dive deeper into the P&L, and I was gonna learn business law, and we're gonna fix all this shit. And what I ended up doing before, like, because we dive into that stuff, we talk about marketing and law and legal and OSHA, but before you really can worry about any of that, man, you got to be able to fix yourself. It really starts, like, if I can leave a message with the audience, it starts at the top. Like, it starts true leadership. We learned it. We hear it. We actually hear it quite often. Everything rises and falls on leadership. And when you have a piss poor leader at the top, or somebody that's not leading at all, or people are watching you, just because, Bill, where you are, Nate, where you are, they're watching you. They know you're not getting to work till 9 o'clock in the morning because you were out all night. They know. Dude, they know. And you have to, I'd be lying to say that we would invite you to our organization and just being here is going to change you. Because, I mean, that's bullshit. You have to be able to and want to put in the work. You gentlemen put in a significant amount of work. I mean, here we are on a Saturday putting in the work. But if you want to realign, like, if you genuinely want to change, I genuinely knew there was a problem. I was on that roller coaster and I couldn't get off. Then, I mean, this is the organization for you. This is the organization for you. And y'all both know we don't let anybody in the door. I'll tell you that I was so uncomfortable when I first came here, not knowing a soul in the room. I mean, my go-to, 2+ years ago, well, what do you do to loosen up? Well, you drink. And I'm going to say that I'm really, really, really lucky.
You are. You were
to
really
still
loose,
be
bro.
here.
You were loosened. You were real loosened up. Woo!
And Mr. and Mrs. Calloway joke with me often that one night when we came back, it might have been after the Top Golf night or something, we came back to the hotel and we sat in the hotel bar, which is interesting because neither one of them drank. And I sat there and they sat there with me. And I'm just a kid that they just met, what 3 days before that? And they sat there with me for hours that night and watched me drink and listen to my story like a mom and a dad would to a son. Nate, you saw it. Brian saw it. Mr. and Mrs. Calloway saw it. I mean, who has the influence in our organization. At this point, I mean, more of us have influence than who had the influence 2 years ago. But they could have thrown me away, and they didn't. They chose not to. And here it is. We're over the 2-year mark. We're coming in on 3 years, and not only did they not throw me away, the three of us actually have we have the luxury, or we have the benefit to have positions in our organization. They didn't have to do that. I mean, we joked around about it, but I came in a drunken mess. And now, I hold a position in this organization to be able to bring people to the table and vet those people and share this story. We read it all the time, guys, but you are, I mean, if you want to hang out with 5 jackasses, I mean, you will be the 6th. We choose to hang out with winners, and we will be the 6th,
bet your
and the
ass.
7th, and the 8th. Because you cannot, the stuff that we do for each other, the conversations we had, the love in the room, the love at the pool, the text messages, it's hard to explain and express those feelings. But I'll say, Bill, in closing and wrapping up the conversation, that, if there's any contractors out there who aspire to be better, genuinely be better, they should try to want to get in this room. Not everybody's getting in the room. Y'all know that. Not everybody's getting in the room. But they should want to try to get into the room, because this entire room is a room of winners. It's a room of winners. And, not everybody, and you see all different walks of winners, all different walks of people. Everybody's at a different place in their walk, from guys that are just starting out seal coating to guys that run, a successful welding company in California, to a guy that's killing it in the custom home space in a vacation area in Florida. So there's all different walks of people here. And we want to make the room as large as possible, if it's the right people on the right mission.
This today was a hell of a start to the interviews. So thank you for doing this, Daniel. They knocked it out the park. I mean, this was good. A lot of good. When you broke off there for a little bit, Nate and I were talking about it. This is some good stuff right here. Right, Nate?
Yes. I'm speechless.
Nate's speechless.
So, dude.
Nate is speechless, and that is rare. You made Nate speechless, and that is a rarity, Daniel. So this was great, man. We really appreciate your time. Before we go, where can people connect with you? Where can they find you on social?
So my Instagram is Daniel C. Good, and I'm on Facebook as Daniel Good. So
say that again. I think you're covering up your speaker.
So I'm on Instagram as Daniel C. Good, and then on Facebook as just Daniel Good. Or you can hit me up in the DMs.
He is also
all the ladies out there
and
slide
ready to
on
mingle.
in.
Oh,
slide into those DMs.
Yeah, for real. I even broke out this new shirt for today's podcast. Look at that.
He also has a profile sponsored on farmersonly.com.